In our third grade measuring time unit, there's one supporting standard, and that is 3.7c. That is supported by 2.9g. In second grade, students learn to tell time to the minute, but they don't solve problems related to the passing of time or involving adding and subtracting of time intervals like we do in third grade. They only learn to tell time to the minute. So that helps us because students are expected to find their answers on clocks, but it doesn't give us an understanding of how to add and subtract time. So let's talk about what third graders have to do. So our TEK says, determine solutions to problems involving addition and subtraction of time. So we're solving problems where we're adding or subtracting time intervals in minutes. Using pictorial models. So that means they should always get some sort of a picture, either a picture of a clock, a picture of a number line, some sort of a pictorial model. Using pictorial models, and we're talking about problems where we would be adding things like pictorial models or tools like a clock, left that part off, where we're talking about things like a 15-minute event plus a 30-minute event equals 45 minutes. So there are a lot of things involved in this standard that students need instruction on. First thing is we have to be able to read the analog clocks. That's a tough part when it's not something that we do in our world every day. We use digital clocks. We use digital clocks on phones and iPads and microwaves. We don't have a lot of analog clocks in our world. So if you don't have an analog clock in your classroom, please get an analog clock for your classroom. Talk to your campus administrator and remind them that you have time TEKs that require the use of an analog clock. So you really need to have that in your classroom. So they have to be able to read analog clocks. They have to know that 60 minutes is an hour. Now, the reason they need to know that is if I'm adding and subtracting time in minutes, I need to know that if I add 30 minutes plus 45 minutes, it's 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's 75 minutes, but 60 minutes of that makes up 1 hour. So that's another important thing students need to know. So we're in third grade solving problems where we are given a start time and how long something took to finish, or we're giving an end time and trying to figure out when something started. So let me give you an example. We could be given a start time, so we'll say something started at, school started at, or math class started at 8 a.m. It lasted for 90 minutes. And then the question would say, what time did it end? Okay, that's one way we could see in third grade. That's one. We could also hear class ended at 9:30. It lasted for 90 minutes. And then they could ask, what time did it start? Okay, we could also be given a list of times to add together and give a total time that has passed. So, for example, event A was 15 minutes, event B was 38 minutes, and then event C was 21 minutes. And you could be asked, what's the total of the 3 events? Now, this is third grade. That's the third grade expectation. We have to be really careful that we understand the difference in the third grade expectation and the fourth grade expectation. The fourth grade expectation, I'm going to slide this down a little bit so I have some more room to write. Fourth grade is truly elapsed time, where it might say math class started at 8 a.m. and ended at 9:30. How long was math class? That's the fourth grade standard. That's not your standard. You do not calculate the time between two times. You don't calculate the number of minutes between two times. That's fourth grade standard. You are either given a start time or an end time. If you're given a start time, you're given the number of minutes to add to it to find the end. Or if you're given the end time, you're given the number of minutes to take away from it to find the beginning. Or you're just asked to add time intervals. You are not asked to figure out the amount of time that elapsed between a start time and an end time. That's fourth grade. So really watch your resources to make sure that you are staying on your standard. So let's look at what a couple of questions might look like and why this reading an analog clock could be so important to us. So here we have Deborah and Shelley started running a race at 9 a.m. That's the time that's shown here. And Deborah finished in 45 minutes. Shelley finishes the race 20 minutes after Deborah. Here's the tricky part. Which clock shows the time Shelley finished the race? So not only do I have to know how to go 45 minutes and then 20 more minutes, so I'm going past an hour. I'm going a total of 65 minutes. But I also have to read the clock to be able to find the answer to that. Now, we could also see that I mentioned earlier on a number line. We're always given some sort of a model or tool. So here we were given a number line instead of an actual clock. So we put the ham in the oven at 4:45. After 15 minutes, he put the cake in the oven. The ham and the cake were both in the oven together for 60 minutes. We need to know 60 minutes is 1 hour. Then he took them both out of the oven. At what time did he take them out of the oven? He took them out of the oven at 6 o'clock. So the best strategy for this, again, like we've talked about in other units, is label, label, label. So I would say, here's my start time, 15 minutes. What happened here? Here is where he put the cake in. This is my 15 minutes. This was where the ham went in. Then what happened? The ham and the cake were in the oven together for 60 minutes. Well, I can see this is counting by 15s. So 60 minutes gets me all the way to here. They're in the oven together. What time did he take both of them out of the oven? I can see he took them out there because it says then he took them out of the oven. So we want to teach them to use those same strategies we used when we were doing adding and subtracting on a number line by showing the events that have happened to get from one time to the next on the number line. So big takeaway from this one, know what your standard requires and what the fourth grade standard requires. So you're not spending your time and students' energy teaching something that's not your standard. So be sure you're focusing on the third grade standard, not the fourth grade standard. This is not expected of a third grade student. So if you have resources that teach this, give those to your fourth grade teacher. That's not your standard. You want to make sure you are spending your time on the third grade standard.